Hello friends, it's Kristine Vicente with Queen City Stamp Art, and I'm back today with another clean and simple card. I'm also going to be sharing another fun watercoloring technique using a masked watercolor background. So we're going to be trying out some of that fun new masking paper that Stampin' Up! Is offering in the annual catalog. We're going to be using the Christmas Scottie stamp set. Now I love this stamp set because I had a West Highland Terrier for about 14 years. I had her whole life. She was absolutely beautiful. Her name was Maggie. And when I saw this stamp set, it really reminded me of her. She was not a Scottie dog, but she was a West Highland Terrier, which is a Scottish breed, and she looked very similar. She was so sweet and cute, and it just, seeing the stamp set made my heart warm. So I bought this one as part of my demonstrator pre-order so I could play with it. I've made some really cute Christmas cards with this that I'll be sharing later in the season, but today we're going to make a card that's actually not a Christmas card, and it's a fun way to show you how you can stretch your stash. You can maybe look at your Christmas stamp sets a little bit different in the future and get a little bit more mileage out of them. So we're going to use this stamp set. This is part of a punch bundle, so there's a punch that cuts out this particular Scottie dog. We're not going to be using the punch today because we're actually going to be using this dog, but there's a cute punch that goes with this, and if you buy them together, the punch and the stamp set, you save 10%. So we're also going to be using a panel of we're going to be embossing a panel with the Quatrefoil Tile embossing folder to add a little texture to the background. And we're going to be using a little rectangle of Fluid 100 watercolor paper. This is the paper that Stampin' Up! Offers, and it's really great. It comes in sheets of 5x7, and I think you get, how many do you get in here? 10 sheets, 10 5x7 sheets in here. So it's good. And then we're going to be using the new Stampin' Up! Masking paper. So the Stampin' Up! Masking paper also comes in 5x7 sheets. It's you get 12 sheets of it, and it'll last you quite a while. I've been using it a little bit here and there, and I've only used a little bit of, like, basically not even one full sheet. And I save all the little bits because you never know what you're going to want to mask, but I just cut a few strips of masking paper. These measure about 3 inches by 1/2 inch, and I'll show you why in a minute because we're going to get right into the masking. So for this technique, we're going to be using the polished pink ink pad as a watercolor palette. So I'm just going to give the pad itself a squeeze to transfer some of the ink from the pad itself into the lid so we can use this as our color palette. I'm going to be pulling in our watercolor paper, and we're going to be watercoloring this panel, but I want to add the masking paper to it first. So the masking paper is just a very thin paper that has a little bit of a release paper and a light stick to the back of it. So when you take off the release paper, which there is a little strip that that makes it a little bit easier to use when you're using bigger sheets of it, but it's not too hard to release. I'm going to use my grid paper. I'm going to line this up on my grid, and I'm going to use my grid paper to make sure that my strips are placed straight across the paper. So this is just going to take a second to do. Bear with me here. And we're going to line this up really nice. And what I'm doing is I'm actually masking off little bands of area. So wherever the masking paper is stuck down, it's going to stay white, and then the color is going to be in the other sections that I'm not masking off. And this will create a fun striped background that is sort of Kate Spade-ish, I think. And you can kind of place these wherever you want at whatever intervals. Just like that. So I'm just going to make sure they're stuck down really well. And now I'm going to transfer this piece to my silicone mat with a paper towel on top. This will just protect the work surface from getting wet because I don't want that. So I'm using watercolor paper this time instead of like the shimmery white or just regular basic white thick, because I'm going to be adding a little bit of extra water to this. Now, if you've seen some of my past watercoloring videos, you know that I like to, often when I do a background, I like to spritz it. But in this case, with my little water spritzer, but in this case, I'm not going to spritz it because I've got this layer of paper, and I don't want that to lift up. So I'm just going to take my water painter this time. I'm not using a regular paintbrush. I'm going to use an actual water painter because I can control the flow of water that's in the barrel of the brush. I'm going to be using the broad tip since I'm doing kind of a wash, and I don't need the fine detail. These water painters come in a pack of 3. You get a broad tip, a medium tip, and a fine tip. So it's a really good value for $12 US to get a pack of water brushes for 12 bucks. So we're going to be using this broad tip, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to squeeze a little bit of the barrel here onto the ink pad and make kind of a little soupy mess here. And I'm going to start at the bottom, and I'm just going to brush on some of this color. And I'm going to add a little bit more. I'm going to try and do sort of an ombre effect. So the darkest will be at the bottom. And I'm just continually layering on the color. Then I'm going to move to the next section. I'm actually going to try and wet this paper a little bit with my brush first too. I should have done that at the beginning. Just kind of wet it with my brush and have it soak in a little bit. It just helps the color move a little bit better when you do it this way. And then I'm going to add some more. And I'm just kind of going back and forth and doing this between the sections. And I don't care if it has like a streaky look, because it sort of gives it that watercolor feel, and I do really like it. And I will like it when it dries too, I'm sure. Okay. And I'm going to leave it at that. I'm just going to leave it at a little bit more to the bottom. There we go. So I like how that looks. So I'm gonna set this aside now. I'm actually going to remove the strips while it's still moist, because they come off a little bit better. Just like that. And we've got this really fun little striped panel for our background. So I'm going to set all of this aside and let this little piece dry. And then I'll bring it back in when we go to finish the card. But we've got a little bit of work to do now to get the other elements of the card ready. So I can close up the pink ink pad, and I'm going to pull in this. Oh no, this is a different panel. I'm going to pull in a scrap of white. Let me just grab a little scrap. Forgot about that. Okay, I've got a scrap of white here, and now we're going to stamp out and fuzzy cut our Scottie dog. So I'm going to take this cute little dog and ink him up really good on my Memento black ink pad. Make sure he's well inked. Because this is a photopolymer stamp set, I'm also going to bring in my my little foam mat here, because that's going to help us get a really good solid impression. Yeah, he looks inked up pretty well. And then I'm just going to stamp him down here on this piece. And I'm just going to hold it for a second so the ink will soak in to the paper. And we got a really good image there. That looks great. So now I'm going to just put the cover on that for a minute, and I'm going to get my little scissors, and I'm going to spend a few minutes here, or just about a minute, fussy cutting him out. And I'm going to start with his little tail, and I'm just going around the dog. It's pretty easy to cut him out with my scissors. I'm just going to leave a little tiny white border. I think it's so fun to be able to create cards that are part of a Christmas set for other occasions, because it really helps you to stretch your stamping dollars. And I think you're going to love how cute he looks against that pink striped background. So I'm just going around the edges carefully to cut him out. Just going to trim this off a little bit and give myself a smaller piece here, and just finish cutting out the tail. Just like that. He looks really cute. And then I'm also gonna bring my polished pink ink pad back in for a second. And I'm going to add the little dog collar. There's a little stamp that you can stamp his little collar, so you can make it all different colors. And so I'm going to put a little pink collar on there, so it's probably a little female. Put a little pink collar on her so she coordinates. And then I'm going to set her aside for a minute, and we're going to bring that little panel that we just watercolored. I'll bring this back in. Now what's cool about this is it dries really fast. This is completely dry now and ready to use because we didn't saturate the paper. So I'm going to add another little layer to kind of clean up the edges. I like how this layer, how it looks when you do that, when you add a little mat to a panel before you add it to the card. So this is a very thin mat. Just a little fraction of an inch, but I think it cleans it up really nice. And then we'll bring in the rest of the card. So we're going to use that gorgeous embossed layer as the base layer for the card. And because I embossed it, I am going to, oh, I got pink ink everywhere here. I am going to put some adhesive all the way around the edges of this so that it stays nice and flat and attaches to the base card well. And then I'll add this layer here like this. Okay, and then we're going to put this layer on. We're going to, before we do, I want to stamp this though with the sentiment. So I'm going to bring the Memento ink pad back in, and I have a cute sentiment on here that says, "You are always loved." And this is part of the stamp set with the Scottie dog. And I'm going to stamp that onto this layer of color like that, right there on the, directly on the panel. And then we're going to add this layer to the base card with some adhesive. Just like this. And then we're going to add dimensional adhesive to kind of pop her up off the card base. And I'm just going to use a couple dimensionals here. And just sit her right here. Just like that. And then I'm going to take my Take Your Pick tool, and I'm going to use it to, I'll take my, so I can put a little bit of adhesive on the back of these little hearts. And I guess I'll use some tweezers. So I'll put a little adhesive back. You could use wet adhesive. That would actually probably be better. I just don't have any with me right now. It's over on my other work table. And then I'm going to use my tweezers just to place these cute little hearts on the card. Just like that, to embellish. And then to finish this off, one other tiny detail would be to add a little rhinestone, a regular plain rhinestone, to the doggie's collar, just like that. I think that looks so cute. I love this card. I love how it came out. I think it would be a great Valentine card to send to somebody, like a friend or a child or a grandchild. I also think that it would be pretty in other colors, but pink and black are so crisp and sharp. I just love them, and I love the little red hearts. These little heart die cuts are from the teacup dies that are new in the annual catalog. And they have a bigger version too, but I like the little ones. So I hope you like this card for today. I hope you enjoyed seeing how you can use some Christmas, like a themed Christmas stamp set to create some really fun cards that are not Christmas and just as lovely. So I will be sharing more ideas using this stamp set in the coming months as we get closer to Christmas. But for now, I hope you'll enjoy this card. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon.